If you want to build software fast, you need to understand what an API is. Whether it's a mobile application or a web applications, APIs are essential to building software. Now, what is an API? Well, an API is an application programming interface, and today we're going to be building it with the visual development stack, the best stack in the entire world. That's right, guys, Toddle and Xano. All right, so Toddle is going to be our front end, and Xano is going to be our back end. Okay, and you might have some naysayers that say you guys should learn how to code from scratch. Well, listen here, okay? I know Pern stacks, I know Mern stacks, I've built things in Next.js. There is no faster way to build your project than with Toddle and Xano right now. All right, so let's talk about APIs. API fundamentals, application programming interface. It allows your application to communicate with different entities, whether those are your users or other software application. Think about what OpenAI is doing right now. They basically created an API, and all of the big enterprise companies in the world have basically plugged OpenAI into their business to give their business more intelligence, agentic-like capabilities. All right, so we're not going to be talking about OpenAI and using that particular API today. We're going to be talking about the basics of how to actually pull data from a front end to a back end, from a back end to a front end, so on and so forth. Okay. And so you have public APIs, you have private APIs, and within those APIs, you can get data, post data, delete data, update data. That's called get, post, put, and delete. All right. And so today we're going to be working with getting data. All right. If you guys want to go over post, put, and delete, let me know, or you can just hang out inside of my daily office hours over at softwarecreators.net. All right, so let's just get right into it, guys. Let's start with Toddle, our front end, and actually have some boilerplate here that I was going to work with, but because I love Toddle so much and I just want to show you guys how fast it is as a builder, I just want to start from scratch. All right, so here we go. This is our body. Let's head over to style, and we're going to get right into it. And this front end is going to allow us to see data from a back end, okay? Let's get rid of the padding here. And here you go. So when you guys sign up for Toddle, this is what you're going to see. Absolutely nothing. And you're going to have to basically design everything from scratch unless you have some awesome templates. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And so, guys, there you go. I just created a width of 100 and height of 100, basically expanding this div across the entire body of this page. All right, so mobile apps, web apps are going to see a 100% span of this div from top to bottom, and this is the body. Now, after the body, you usually want to add another div, and this div is going to be where all your content lives. Let me give some padding here real quick. 3rem. This is going to be padding to the body, and we're going to create another div with 100% width and 100% height, okay? And so let's do one more thing. Let's add the form that we're going to need so our users can basically submit their data. Now on forms are usually not 100%, so we'll make this form 50%. And there you go. You'll notice that this form is in the upper left-hand corner of our page here, and that's because it's the child, and the parent has it so that content is in the upper left-hand corner there. If we want to center this div, bam, there you go, and you guys can see that we've centered the div. Let's style the content div real quick so you guys can see exactly what we're working with here. Let's make the content div grade 300. I hate grade 300, but we're going to do it anyway. Let's create a radius of 8 pixels. Let's create a nice little border as well, and let's make the border grade 500. There you go. Okay, so here's our form. Let's add some content inside of our form. So we need an input field. Okay. I actually should have did a heading first, so let's do a heading as well. Heading 1, we're going to move that a little bit above the input field, just like that. And now we're going to add a button. All right, this is your typical form, but look how ugly it is. It's in the upper left-hand corner again. That's because the form is a div too, and you have to center it. There you go. That looks a whole lot better. And I know you guys are on YouTube or maybe on mobile, so you're like, dude, I can't see that. So here we go. Here's our front end, and just like that, I got some stuff spun up here on the front end. Do you guys know how long it would have taken to do this if you went through a boot camp? I mean, on week 2, they're showing you how to center a div. So, you know, there's just so many faster ways to build software nowadays, and trust me, they're not going to teach you Toddle. So this is our front end. We need to go do some work on the back end real quick. All right, and I want to go over the back end, and to do that, we're going to talk a little bit about using a GET request. Okay, so remember what APIs do. APIs allow you to interact with another software application. Well, in this instance, we have a front end, which is Toddle, and we have Xano as our back end. Xano is going to be where we do user authentication. That's going to be where our database lives, and that's going to be where we use all of our custom business logic. Okay. And so all we need now though is a URL. If you want to do a GET request, you have to use a URL, just like here in the address bar. That's how all this stuff works. So let's go get our URL from Xano. To get our URL, we have to create an API endpoint. Let's do that real quick. And what you guys will notice here, they have a couple of different things that you can select. We'll create a custom endpoint so you guys can see what we got. And we'll name this endpoint test endpoint, no capital T, test endpoint. Okay, it's a GET. All right, so we're going to be getting data with this test endpoint, and it's not authenticated. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, let's just get this thing working real quick. So here you go. If I copy this URL and I open it in a new tab, you actually won't see anything. It'll say null. That's because we have to add some content to our endpoint here. It has to be doing something, right? So let's make it so that it displays a name. Super simple. We're going to create a variable. And this variable is going to be called user underscore name. And we'll make the content of this variable software creator. All right, save, update reference. All right, so right now we have an API endpoint, and the business logic of that API endpoint is simply just showing a name of this particular variable. A variable is a key value pair. So in this instance, our key is username and our value is software creators. But we need to return this variable. We need to see this variable on our front end. Okay, so notice right here the response. So anytime you're working with an API, you have the request and you have the response. And the response is basically what you want to see after you get that information. And right now you guys are seeing that we're going to be getting the username. So let me publish this real quick. And let me copy that endpoint just in case I don't got it. Boom, look at that, software creators. All right, so this API is being typed into this address bar, and this address bar is sending a GET request to my backend in Xano. And Xano is sending back this variable called software creators. Let's make it a little bit more complex though. This is gonna get a little bit fun. All right, and just to show you that this is working, I'll just hide this real quick. I'll show you guys. I mean, I don't know. I know I needed a lot of different like scenarios and ways of looking at things. Missing entry username. So something's going on. We just hid the variable. So you guys can notice it's not working because we just hid it. But we're going to unhide it here. Okay. Now, what did it mean missing param? Well, this was hidden, but we were still trying to pull the username. But our function stack, our business logic didn't have anything to pull, right? So that's how this works, all right? So this is basically where your application business logic is going to exist, and it can get very, very robust. You can basically, within this user interface that you're seeing right now with this one endpoint, you can build some incredible stuff, all right? But anyway, let's make it so that we're actually pulling this name, software creators. Let's make it so that we're pulling this from a database, okay? So notice here we have database. Let's head over to database inside of Xano. And I built a test database for you guys. It's super simple to build a database. You just go to add table up here to the top right, and then boom, you'll create a database. Now this database is authenticated. So I'm gonna turn this off real quick so you guys can take a look at this. And I have some columns here. I have some data. So the user of this is YouTube right now. Let's make the user of this Keith, and we're gonna make the test input empty for right now, okay? And we don't gotta update anything. We can just go back over to our API. We can go over to the software creators API group. We can go to the test endpoint API endpoint. And actually, let's hide this now. We're going to pull that user record from that database to the front end with business logic. This is how you do it. You go to add a function, you go to get record, and we need to hit the test. Okay, that's our test database. Now, we have to pull that one specific user. We only have one user in our database, but we still need the ID. We need some way that we can target that user, and usually this is done with a user ID. Let's head back and take a look and see what our user ID was. Okay, so our user ID is 1. Pretty cool. Now you can have your user ID be anything. It can be these very long strings called a UUID to make it very, very hard for anybody to just kind of randomly guess, you know, some field value. But just for simplicity's sakes, there you go. We're going to make it 1. All right. And so then we're going to go save. And we're going to publish this. And you actually don't have to, you know, copy this URL and show it in your address bar. You can actually just press 1 right here, run, And look at what our business logic is going to do. It's going to get a record from the test database, and the record is going to get is the one record. It's our first guy. All right, we're going to press run, and missing entry. Oh, actually, let me do this real quick. I still need to change this to test one. Notice that our response wasn't changed, and now we're going to run this again, and you guys are going to see that Keith populates. All right, that's why I got to always make sure your response is correct. Okay, so we're going to publish this, and just to show you guys, here you go. Let's have our URL, let's have our browser call this API. There it is, there's Keith. And remember, we don't have anything right now for test input right now. But what we're going to do, we're going to fill test input with our front end, with Toddle. It's going to be super fun. All right, so let's go back and let's actually now start connecting this to Toddle, because I think you guys understand this enough. Let's have it so that Toddle is able to show this user record in our front end. So we're going to copy the endpoint URL, just in case I don't have it. And we're going to, let's destroy this one. That's the one I did already. And let's create an API. So what you guys are looking at right now is called the Toddle Editor, and it is extremely powerful. It's for web application development. This is not Squarespace. This is not Wix. This is not Webflow. It's a whole nother level. All right. And so we're going to create an API. I'm going to take the API endpoint and I'm going to paste it. I'm going to go continue. And immediately you guys can see that it populated the path, and it actually auto-fetched. It hit that request as soon as I threw it in there, because I have on auto-fetch. Auto-fetch automatically turns on in Toddle. And you guys can see in Toddle, now I have that user record in that database. Because remember, there's Keith right there. I can actually change this to softwarecreator.net. And I can head back over to Toddle. I can run this again. And boom, there you go. The database record is updating. And since the database is updating, our front end is updating. That's it. That's how APIs work with visual development. If you wanted to do this with code, it would have taken a very long time. Okay. Now, if I can get, let's say, 5 comments, because I know this is new for my channel. If I can get 5 comments of people saying authentication, I'm going to show you how to do this with authenticated routes. Basically meaning that not anybody can just use this URL and just pull the data. Because guys, look, if I basically, let me just show you guys this. I could now, let me go back over to Xano. Let me go to copy this endpoint URL. If you guys had this URL, you guys could just hit my database and see what's in it. That's not cool. Take a look at this real quick. I'll show you guys that if I wanted to make this endpoint private and have it only so that certain users could access this data, now if I gave you this URL, okay, if I gave you this URL, look and see what's going to happen. You're not authorized, dog. You don't have the right cookies in your browser. You didn't log in through my front end, and then through logging in, I would have said, okay, look, this person just logged in. I'm going to create a cookie and add an authentication cookie on that person's browser. And so that way, boom, you would have actually been able to see this if you were authenticated, but you're not authenticated. So if you guys want me to create a video on authentication, I will totally do that. I'm going to wrap this up by showing you how easy it is to pull the data from this API endpoint into Toddle on the front end. We're going to head over to heading. I'm going to go to FX. I'm going to go to value. I'm going to test. I'm not going to go to test input, actually. We're going to go to the new API, sorry. We're going to go to data, and we're going to go to, what do you guys want to see? You want to see Keith? Well, softwarecreators.net. There's softwarecreators.net. So just like that, Xano has a record stored in a database far, far away from Toddle, all right? But because we created business logic to pull that API to the front end just by doing a get record, we're now able to take this endpoint URL, and remember, it's passing the response is giving us the data that we want. The response is extremely important, okay? And so boom, there you go in Toddle. I created an API endpoint. I added the API from Xano here in Toddle. It created the paths, and there you go. So now we can see softwarecreators.net. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so if you guys want to see me do this with authentication where users have to log in, comment down below authentication, and I will create that video. And this is going to be the fastest way you guys can create software in 2025. All right. I hope you guys like this new content. It's been really fun learning all this stuff, and I want to give it to you guys because it is the most valuable thing on the planet. Your ability to build software is going to distinguish you from the entire world, because just look at the Forbes 400. The most successful people on the planet build software and are software creators. You need to become one as well, and it has never been easier. And it's hard enough right now for you to be basically at an advantage, because in 5 years, when it's really easy to do it, everyone's going to do it. But it's hard enough right now that people are still ignoring it, but easy enough for you guys to just, make it happen. Like in a few days, you can build some really cool stuff. All right. So guys, hope you like this video. Comment down below auth for me to kind of finish this thing along. Talk to you guys soon. Peace out.